de la Sierra Morena, cielito lindo, viene bajando un par de ojitos negros, cielito lindo, de contrabando. Here we go. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegra, cielito lindo, los corazones. Everybody. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegra, cielito lindo, los corazones. Este lunar que tienes, cielito lindo, junto a la boca, no se lo des a nadie, cielito lindo, que a mí me toca. Let me hear you now. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegra, cielito lindo, los corazones. Este lunar que tienes, cielito lindo, junto a la boca, no se lo des a nadie, cielito lindo, que a mí me toca. Let me hear you now. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegra, cielito lindo, los corazones de la Sierra Morena, cielito lindo, vienen bajando un par de ojitos negros, cielito lindo, de contrabando. One more time. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegra, cielito lindo, los corazones.
But that was yesterday, and yesterday's gone. We walked
I mean to talk to you about, have you heard anything about our 20th reunion? I think this is the year we're supposed to be having it. I just wondered if, has anyone contacted you or get any information on it?
That's right, I completely forgot about that. No, I haven't heard a thing. Have you?
No, they wouldn't know how to get a hold of me anyway. You're the only person that I've had any contact with from our high school class in the last 20 years.
Wouldn't that be a treat to see some of those people again?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been 20 years.
I'm not old enough to have their 20th reunion.
I know I'm not.
I wonder what it would be like. Play magic. If we could sit and talk with some of those people and see what they're up to nowadays. What they've been up to. Wouldn't it be nice to get maybe 10, 12, 14 people and just sit them down in a room and say, what's going on?
Yeah.
Trees swaying in the summer breeze, showing off their silver leaves. as we walked by. Soft kisses on a summer's day, laughing all our cares away, just you and I. Sweet.
I was always in love with Chris Lube, but she was always a foot taller than me, and of course she married Joe, who was a foot and a half taller than me, so if you don't, it'd be good if you didn't put this on the tape.
Sherry, we're talking about our youth, our days in high school. What particular bits of nostalgia come to your mind when you think of 1965?
As an adult now, and I think back on my high school years and the groups that I tried to be in and the people that I tried to be friends with, in retrospect, again, if I had to do over again, I would not have been so social conscious, because it turns out that the people that were nobody, you know what I mean, not in the in groups, turned out to be the nicest people.
When you think of 1965, what immediately comes to mind?
Oh, a lot of friends and carefree times, happy times.
School wasn't as important as the friends that you made in high school. You know, the lasting friendships, and geez, it's great when you see people. I haven't seen you in, what, 17 years, something like that. I haven't seen Carl in 18 or 19 years or whatever. And it's good to see you. You know, you guys look older. I'm still young. You'll find that out when you go to the reunion. Everybody else will look older, and you will still be the same age as you were in high school. Everybody else is grayer and has less hair and got a little heavier, but you're still the same. Everybody believes
a little
that.
heavier. That's very political of you.
Yeah.
I used to practice my speeches sometimes and walk outside the building, and you have to speak out loud and get used to emoting. And I'd be emoting along, and I'd turn around and I'd see some Spanish class or something looking out the window at me laughing. So.
Doug Avery, a.k.a. Doug Sobel, living in Wildomar, California.
Yeah, Bruce Stanley, and I live in Phuket, Thailand.
Can you spell that?
Yeah. Yes, there we are. Okay, anyway, yeah, I live in South Thailand. That's it. Yeah, that's a long ways away. Okay.
So, and, you know, Carl asked us to talk about, you know, what's going on with life, what will we share with other people if we had a chance to share it. And what I would share is, if you're not having fun, don't do it. You know, in my life, I've had the opportunity, well, think about this. If you had to go back and change anything in your life, would you do it? And when I think about that, I wouldn't change a single thing, because I'd be afraid that if I changed it, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I really like where I am today. You know, the good and the bad. But you know, there are people who say, well, it's my job, I got to do it. Bullshit. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to. I literally have never done a job that I ended up hating. If I ended up hating, I left. I had one job that lasted about an hour. And other careers. So, and I think the longest I've been with a particular company is like 7 years.
Well, I've worked mostly in freelance as a writer, so I'm a bit like Doug, is that whenever I've been in a situation where I don't like, there's always someone else I've been able to work for, but that's good. But Doug was always kind of a shining star in our class because he had confidence. He seemed to always project this aura that he knew where he was going, and he had a destiny. And I just sort of felt like I kind of stumbled along, but I agree with him that if I hadn't married one of those wives I did, then maybe I wouldn't be who I am now. So maybe it was okay.
Well, if you've only had one or two wives, you certainly haven't lived.
Okay.
I mean, you know, anybody that's had less than three wives and weighs less than 250 pounds shouldn't be alive.
Right. Doug is one of these people that we remember, though, from high school, and we miss him because he was such a big presence. So I'm really happy to see him again.
And that's very kind. Our perceptions are interesting because I never perceived myself as confident. Yeah, I mean, you can take me today, bone ass naked, drop me any place in the world, and I'll be fine.
Yeah,
I'll be fine. I'll be,
I believe that.
I'll be fine in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
But that's more because what can happen. So you got to do what you got. I think it's consequence and responsibility. Our generation definitely understands consequence and responsibility. If you do it, you go ahead and do whatever you want. But if you do the crime, you pay you do the time.
One of the things that Vietnam really, really taught me was that everything ends. No matter what it is, it's going to end eventually. No matter how bad it is, how good it is, how intense it is, whatever it is, it's going to end. There's a beginning and an end. When I grew up, the values were pretty much apple pie, 4th of July. You do what you say you're going to do. You're held accountable. You can go ahead and do the crime, but if you do the crime, you got to do the time. And it was a very innocent time. Chula Vista was kind of like Leave It to Beaver. And back in the day, we moved over there in 1950 from San Francisco, which is where I was born. I could ride my bike downtown alone. It was that kind of town. Commuter town, everyone worked in San Diego. Small town, a lot of Navy. We had a sense of patriotism, in our country, but we really didn't hear much about Vietnam. 65, you heard rumbles of Vietnam, but nothing major. I actually enlisted in my senior year, and probably was wise enough, even at that age, to understand that the Army would probably be a good, military would probably be a good place for me. So I joined the Army in my senior year. Went in after my last summer. It was good for me to do that. In our basic training, I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana. There's 3 of us that were promoted out of basic by being exemplary troopers. I went from there to medics training at Fort Sam Houston. 12 or 14 weeks, and then we were trained to be a combat medic. Dust-Off, which is a medevac, came in for their flight physicals. I said, that's pretty cool. I said, could I go fly with you guys? I said, sure, come on ahead. So I went over there and did some training, and about a week after that, transferred into Dust-Off voluntarily. The camps were pretty much makeshift. They weren't permanent, where you transport patients from one hospital or aid station. Come in about anywhere from 10 to 12 feet, 10, 8, 6 feet. I'd be bailing out, grabbing the guys, picking them up, just slapping them the ship and getting the hell out. And we were never on the ground more than a minute or two, ever. It wasn't litters, it wasn't pretty. It was pick them up, slap them down, dead or alive, didn't matter, get them out. And the grunts on the ground they'd be pretty intense because they would run on either sides of us. Run, and protect this medic, or I'm going to jump out and grab this guy and get him out of that rice paddy and get him on the ship so maybe he can live. You just, hey, we got some people down, let's get out of there. There's people talk about time slows down. Probably sped up for me more than slowed down. And there was a lot of reaction rather than action. Well, a lot of times I'd be shot and I didn't even know it until it was already done. My reaction was I wanted to shoot back. It was more of an anger of, how dare that son of a bitch shoot at me? One of the things that Vietnam did, I can only assume it's the same for all warriors, we didn't talk about it. Most of the time, quite frankly, I think we just were in total denial. Now, there'd be times after a particularly adrenaline-charged mission, I'd shake for an hour, whether it was the adrenaline or whatever it was. I mean, I couldn't hold a cup of coffee. And 67, 68 were really pivotal years as far as how our culture changed. So to be called baby killers it was unjust, but it was mostly ignorant.
And the people who were doing it, for the most part, had no idea what they're talking about. Yeah, I can get pretty maudlin pretty quick when I think about some stuff from Vietnam. I talk about some stuff and it just chokes. It's a reaction I'm not sure I understand. Why did I go to Vietnam? A sense of duty. You know, my country was there and it was the evil communist. And there's, unfortunately, a lot of truth to the evil. Evil's done by all sides in war, and we know that. But the evil that I saw perpetrated in the Vietnamese people was particularly heinous. I find as I get older, there's probably a lot of emotions that have never been expressed. And I don't know if it's healthy, unhealthy, doesn't really matter. Once again, everything ends. No matter how bad it is, it's going to end. And that was then, this is now, and now does not include then.